If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? And welcome to this edition of the Ron and Don Show. And where are we, Ron? We are back in the Les Schwab studio.
What is up, Ron and Don Nation?
Hey, coming up on the Ron and Don Show, the 8 commandments, the 9 commandments, the 12 commandments. I forget what the number is. A decade of commandments? Anyway, the commandments, thank God, really, thank God, they are back in Texas public schools. Will we see that sometime soon in all public schools around America? Also, let's talk about Jeff Bezos and the fact that, did he just get kicked out of Italy? His super yacht, and then his yacht, that is the yacht for the super yacht, the supply yacht. We talked about the supply yacht last week. Before we get to that, though, let's get to this. Jaws, otherwise known as Bruce, and I didn't know there actually had been 3 Bruces, and they finally found one of the Bruces in a junkyard, and they brought him back to life. Jaws is 50. This is really incredible when you think about Steven Spielberg 50 years ago filming this film. I think he was 26, 27 years old, and he said this film almost wrecked his life as a director, and personally, he hated it, and at the same time, they say it was a true blockbuster, one of the first summer blockbusters, and it made over $500 million.
Stop the show.
I hate to do this because you know how much I love my mother. But I'm going to call out my mom, Alice, right now because we were on the phone this week.
Oh, yeah.
I am 54 years old right now. My mother took me as a 4-year-old to see Jaws at the theater. And you and I both lived in Albuquerque, so the theater on Comanche and Eubank.
Yeah.
There was a movie theater right there.
Next to the bowling alley.
We went to a matinee movie. I would have been 4 years and 11 months old, so almost 5. And she thought that Jaws was the right thing to do for my sister would have been 7 or 8. So she took us both to see this movie.
Wow.
We couldn't get snacks. We had to dig through her giant purse for a half a stick of Wrigley gum that smelled like perfume and had lint stuck to the side of it. And then sometimes she would, shove some of those hard candies in there.
Yeah.
But we couldn't afford to go to the nighttime prices and get any sort of snacks. So she texted me basically, and she's like, I just saw this documentary on Jaws. She's like, I can't believe I took you to that movie when you were 4. And so I was thinking about this. This might be my first vivid memory of my life.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have vivid memories before you were 4.
They say usually you don't, and usually your first vivid memory is about 4 years old, and you don't have a lot of them till you get on the other side of 7 or 8.
I remember being in the movie theater. And the lights going down, and when you're 4, and maybe my mom couldn't have a babysitter. I don't remember what the storyline was, but I'm in Jaws, and so it starts out right out of the gate.
Yeah.
If you remember the famous scene and the way the book starts, the famous scene is there's this lovely woman swimming off of Cape Cod, and then boom, she gets attacked by Jaws. Like, that's how the movie opens.
She is still alive today. I saw a picture of her the other day, and she looks like she really got attacked by Jaws 50 years ago.
So I am 4.
Yeah.
And just out of the gate, I'm terrified.
Of course.
And I spent the next 90 minutes or hour 45 going to the bathroom about 200 times. Because every time I would get overwhelmed, and I remember closing my eyes, but then that music was so intense, it was dun dun dun. So like I was freaking out, and I would just go to the bathroom. I would spend enough time. I knew that I couldn't just walk away because I'm 4.
Yeah.
And so I would come back to my seat, go to the bathroom, go back to my seat over and over again. And then was basically, my sister and I were traumatized about going to the YMCA for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it was interesting when Jaws 2, when they wanted to do the remake, Steven Spielberg was not...
Sorry, Mom.
Steven Spielberg was not interested in making that movie. He said the first
Did
movie.
you hear the story about how Spielberg got it?
Uh-uh.
The guys that bought the book rights,
Yeah.
They had a big name director, and the thing that I listened to, they wouldn't name this director, but they had a big name director. They didn't have the screenplay yet, so they just had optioned the book. And the book was kind of a piece of trash, but the story about the shark, there was all kinds of romantic escapades happening and all this stuff
With the shark?
in the book.
A romantic
happening on
a romance with a shark
on Cape Cod, like these trysts and stuff.
Yeah.
So they take this big name director, and they go and meet this guy who was kind of an unknown author at the time, and he keeps talking about how much he loves the book and how much he loves the whale. It's like, I can't wait to do this shoot, and like this whale footage is going to be great, and I mean the whale's going to be fantastic. So about the fourth time this director said the word whale, the producer that was optioning it jumped it out of the lunch. He's like, "It's an effing shark! It's an effing shark! Get out!" He fired him on the spot.
Oh, wow.
Because he kept calling it a whale, and then that's when they said, "Who can we get to direct this movie?" And they were like, "Well, there's this young upstart kid who seems pretty talented, and should we give him a shot?" So Spielberg was not the first choice. It fell to him after it had sort of already been optioned.
Yeah.
And so Spielberg then had to figure out how to get these sharks made, and they brought a guy out of retirement that was a good special effects guy. He only tested them in fresh water, got them working perfectly in fresh water. But Spielberg, because he was young, was like, "We're filming in the actual ocean." And of course, the rest is history.
Yeah, because the salt ate the sharks. And the difficulty, they did this on Martha's Vineyard, and they had this. Did you see the big pulley system that they had underwater that
Yeah.
they built? They built a big pulley system
They
that
anchored the sharks to the
yeah,
floor, right?
and they would sit on the floor of the ocean, and then they had 3 different Bruces, and they all kept breaking down. And Bruce, that played Jaws, was actually too big. He's about 25 feet, and they didn't understand special effects enough, and they also didn't have the ability to open and close his mouth. So that's why Bruce's mouth was always open. They're like, well, we can keep it closed. He's not going to look menacing, or we can make it so it's open. And because of the salt water, these sharks would break all the time, and it was just pissing off Spielberg. And the movie initially, they were going to make this movie for $3.3 million. A Steven Spielberg movie that ends up making $500 million worldwide, and $500 million then might have been that was like $2 billion, right? So they end up.
Well, summer blockbusters weren't a thing.
Yeah, and they're supposed to do it in 55 days. They end up going, I think, 110, 120 days. It ends up costing $9 million. So everybody's upset with him that you spent $9 million that it went over. He was so mad at the end of the filming, and he took the sharks and they completely destroyed them. But when they found out that it was a blockbuster, they said, "Wouldn't it be cool if we made another Bruce?" So they still had the mold. So they went out, they made another Bruce. They used it in some of the touring and the promotion. And then somehow Bruce got lost. Did you see the pictures of it where it was in a junkyard for 25 years?
They put a version of it at Universal Studios.
Right.
And just when my trauma's wearing off, guess where we go vacation? The Upshaw family gets in the family truckster. We drive to California to visit Uncle Dick. And then we go to Universal Studios. My mom puts me on the thing, right? And then Jaws comes out of the water.
Yeah.
I'm like 9.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, and evidently some of the main actors were drinking a lot on set. Richard Dreyfuss is famously very hard to get along with, and he was hard to get. And the 3 main actors didn't like each other.
No.
They didn't get along with each other. So anyway, that was kind of the first blockbuster. And then to look back, I read an article the other day, and it was counting down the 50 best Steven Spielberg movies. And you start at number 50, and number 50 could be in the top 5. And you go through all those movies. It's really amazing the amount of work that he's done when you go through. And you'll recognize, even if you haven't seen the movie, Ron, you'll recognize almost
Does it count all the movies he's been producer for as well?
What's that?
All the movies he's produced as well, or just I don't know if he's directed 50 movies, has he?
I think he's directed like over 110 movies.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah, really incredible. So anyway, Jaws, Bruce, he's 50 years young, and
Well, it turned out to
I
finish
guess
this.
I guess in Martha's Vineyard, they're having some big remembrances, some big parties, and a lot of it said in the article, a lot of hubbubaloo.
Well, the interesting thing I think the takeaway is the fact that those sharks kept breaking down and the shoot was extended, gave them enough time for Steven Spielberg and one other guy. They would go and rewrite stuff all the time. The genius of that movie is you don't see the shark for most of the movie, and the suspense that was built up because the original script, there's sharks everywhere, and that's why he had the 3 models. It's shark after shark after shark, and so the fact that it wasn't working made him create a very different movie. And film critics go, man, the suspense is so thick because you never see the villain. And it's now looked at as genius, but at the time they thought it was a massive failure, and that failure turned into creativity and really launched, his career.
It's very Alfred Hitchcock. I think the interesting thing also is they were initially thinking that they could train a shark.
I know, I saw that.
They were going to train a shark to do what
Attack on command.
to do what Jaws was doing or Bruce was doing. So anyway, hey, you guys, don't go anywhere. Back in a minute. Hey, you guys, it's Ron and Don here for Les Schwab. And right now, Les Schwab tires save up to $80 instantly on a select set of 4 tires. In fact, Ron, you can choose from all-weather tires for year-round traction, or what about EV or hybrid tires? They're designed for durable electric performance or rugged terrain tires made to handle dirt, gravel, and I love to go adventuring. What about you?
Yeah, plus every tire comes with America's best tire warranty, including a 60-day satisfaction guarantee. And check this out, free lifetime maintenance, FREE. I love that. Just another way you get more from less. Stop by your neighborhood Les Schwab or learn more at leschwab.com. That's leschwab.com. This is a limited time offer while supplies last. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
If you find yourself dreaming about a new home, go from just a dream to the Dream Team. Schedule your time at ronandonsitdown.com.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. Matt, off the mic, I stand corrected. How many? Ron must be right. It must be the number of movies that he participated in. Also, as probably an executive producer, but he's directed how many?
He's directed 36.
Yeah.
And
that's too close to the mic. Please say it off the mic. Matt, off the mic doesn't work if you're actually speaking into the mic, right? So how many movies
He's
has
Amblin Entertainment as well, which has done probably over 100 movies.
He's directed 36 movies.
Thank you.
And Jaws was his 3rd movie.
Yeah.
After Duel and the Sugarland Express.
Thank you. Now you can see why we call him Matt off the mic.
But Duel was just a student film, really.
People love you, by the way. I've had a great reaction.
So not true.
They're like, who is that Matt off the mic?
Not true.
That's what they said. Anyway. Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. It is wedding season. And Jeff Bezos is getting married. Evidently, a lot of people in Venice, Italy are upset about it. And evidently, there's a lot of people in Venice, Italy that are going to make a lot of money off of Jeff Bezos and everyone that's flying in. And I would love to be there when Oprah Winfrey is sitting next to Donald Trump Jr., because those are going to be some of the guests
Right.
there. And we know that Leonardo DiCaprio is going to be there. They say that Jeff Bezos is going to roll in on his super yacht. It cost over $500 million, which for Jeff Bezos, that seems kind of like a cheap yacht.
Can I do a sidebar here for 1 second?
Real quick. And then the thing I love, do you know how his soon-to-be bride is he's going to be on the yacht. And then they have the yacht, as we learned last week, that yachts have yachts, right? The support yacht.
Right.
The support yacht has a helicopter pad, and his wife, Lauren Sanchez. Or his fiance, soon-to-be wife, she learned to fly helicopters when she was doing news shows in California. So he's supposed to come in on the super yacht. She's supposed to come in on the other yacht, landing the helicopter on the support yacht, which I think is pretty amazing. If you have the money to do it, why the hell not?
This is what I was going to ask you about. What do you make of? There's a I went back and watched the 60 Minutes interview he did in 2009. And so at that time, he was worth around $9 billion. And they have this scene. It's Scott Pelley.
Is it where he looks really frumpy and he's sitting at his desk and it says Amazon behind him? Is it that one?
No, they're in this car.
He's still driving a Volvo?
He's driving a Honda.
Okay.
And so he's driving a Honda, and I think it's Scott Pelley. And they're driving, I think, on Highway 99. And he's coming up, and he's like, I just did the math, and you're worth $9 billion. What's with the Honda? And Bezos has sort of a sweater on with the collar underneath, and he says, Honda's a perfectly good car. And the transformation of that guy, so it wasn't like he was worth $4 million. He was worth $9 billion at the time.
Yeah.
What do you make of the transformation into kind of a bro? Like he got a trainer, and I don't know what sort of supplements he's on.
Oh, he has a stack going for sure.
Like he's jacked up. He dumped his wife, Mackenzie, who was a normal human, and like then goes into this. He when for the first phase of Amazon, he wasn't yacht guy. He was Volvo and Honda guy, and so this transformation into this person.
Who when you look at this person though, like what's wrong with him? You think about all the things that he's done for the city of Seattle. You think about the jobs that he's created, and Amazon is a worldwide phenomenon. I wonder what would have happened during COVID without it. Everybody beats the shiznit out of him, but at the end of the day,
I just think back to, like, for instance, one thing that is a change to me. He purchases the Washington Post from the Graham family. And if you haven't seen the documentary on Katharine Graham, it's phenomenal. So go watch that. So he purchased it. And at the time when he purchased that, he was like, hey, I'm from the D.C. area. I revere the Washington Post. I'm going to stay out. I'm going to let you do what you do. This to me is like a giving back to the community sort of thing. Then recently he goes to the editorial board. He's like, hey, no more editorials that are anti-Trump. We need to roll this back and get a. So he goes in and now starts to steer the Washington Post to meet his
It's all steered, so Ron. We worked at a station that was steered. We worked at a station.
I'm just saying, that's a big transformation.
We worked at a station that was owned by the Mormons, and they certainly did a pivot. And I don't really listen to that station much, but if you listen to it, you know the talent that's on that. It certainly is steered to the right.
Well,
and the program director that they brought in there, the last three. They sat down with us numerous times. The show, the topics they want us to pick, the things they want us to talk about, it was all steering to the right. So everything out there now is information, it's infotainment, it's leverage. And if you're looking for true journalism, that's gone. Because going out and finding a second, by the time you find your second source, the story's over. That's it. Everybody's moved on.
I'm just saying that's illustrative to me of how Bezos, the arc that he's gone. And I'm not saying that all of it is bad, and I agree with you.
And I place no weight on that paper anymore, to your point. I never did, and I never will. And I think reading news information is very, very boring. And what most people want to do is they don't want to read graphs and tables and educate themselves. They want opinion, and they want to watch people fight, and they want people to dress up as news anchors and entertain them. That's what you see every night on TV. And you can see it on the cable channels. You see it on the main channels. It's just information. It's infotainment. It's what Larry King taught us to do.
I just find it fascinating.
It's what Cairo became. And if you look at stations that just did the news, like CBS, down in San Francisco, those doors are closed. They're not open anymore. No one listens to those. What happened to Como here when they were trying to do a newsreel? They got sold off, right? Because they don't make any money. So I don't know that those newspapers and those news sources are real news sources anymore.
I take your point. It's the fascinating thing to me is the guy that was a multi-billionaire Honda driver into bigger multi-billionaire yacht helicopter guy who's sending, going up to space wearing an oversized cowboy hat. That's the journey to me that is interesting. These things, I get the Venetian people saying, hey, we don't want a part of the Venetian people.
It was just it was Greenpeace people, and a lot of the Venetian people are going, no, we want your business. We want the jobs. We want you in our restaurants. You're having a 3-day party. We want to provide
they wanna-
fuel and food, and
they're
fun.
overcharging and all that stuff.
Yeah, so it was a group of Greenpeacers that threatened to jump out in the water in floaties and get in front of the yacht,
Yeah, but-
which is kind of awesome too.
2009, Jeff
When you're
Bezos,
Greenpeace, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to jump in front of yachts on floaties, so they can't come down the canal. So they were forced to move all three parties, which I loved as well.
I do as well. But 2009 Jeff Bezos, I don't think would like 2025.
What do
Jeff
you think
Bezos.
happened?
I think there's some sort of tipping point where you unlock different phases of power as your wealth increases.
Yeah.
And then you finally get into the boss level and you're like, oh, this is how the world works. Well, in that case, I'm doing testosterone, working out, and getting a couple yachts.
Right.
And I'm going to space.
Yeah.
And so I think there are things that when you amass that kind of power, $9 billion Bezos had power, but not the same sort of power.
I think it comes down, and I think all your points are right. I can't argue with them. I think it comes down to legacy. I think you're building something, and you saw Bill Gates do this. And watch him in an interview now when they say, didn't all your wealth come from Microsoft? He will tell you 15% of his wealth, I don't know if it's true, came from Microsoft. He wants you to know that, hey, I haven't been driving the car at Microsoft for a long time. I've done all these other things. I've made my money different ways.
Yes.
And now look at me over here. I'm giving it all away before I die, and I'm shutting down my foundation because he's really thinking about control, power, and legacy. I think Elon's the same way. Elon's like, you know what? I can go out and make billions of dollars. I can make tens of billions of dollars. I can make hundreds of billions of dollars. I can make $1 trillion, and I can lose it overnight. And I'm so smart, I can regain it all tomorrow. And by the way, I don't live in a house, right? I sold all my houses. I have how many ever kids that he has. I think for him, I think all of them, they're thinking about legacy. I think Bezos is certainly thinking about legacy as well. So
I'll be interested to see the photos of this wedding. I don't know much about Lauren Sanchez, but it seems like an interesting couple.
isn't that interesting that she would fly her helicopter into the...
That's great. She's a pilot.
I think that's great.
Are they
Yeah.
gonna? She's doing that while they're playing "Here Comes the Bride." Like that's her.
I don't know, but I read last night that
She will
was,
be landing the
that was
plane.
kind of the plan, that she was landing, that he was coming through on the main yacht, and she was coming
Is there
through on the
any
support
part-
yacht, landing the helicopter.
Is there
on the
any
yacht.
part of you that like doesn't want anyone to get injured, but like maybe have the helicopter land wrong and tip over on its side?
No. I just want to sit there with Oprah and Donald Trump Jr.
Oprah will
and
be gracious.
Leonardo DiCaprio, and then Orlando Bloom, who just left Katy Perry after 10 years. He's going to be there. And according to In Touch magazine, here's a quote. He's going to be dancing his ass off. Don't you want to see Orlando Bloom fresh off of
Well, I think Katy Perry's gonna be there.
She can't be.
No, she was one of the. She went to space with Lauren.
She's on a world
She's
tour.
a space team.
She's on a world tour.
She's flying in.
She can't come.
She's going to be there.
I wonder if Gail's going to show up in her space.
She just went on space team. They're all going to wear the blue onesies.
Google it. You're wrong. I
think
I
she's
read
gonna
this
be
last
there.
night in In Touch and Variety magazine. Now, those are news organizations.
Yeah.
We'll see you on the other side of this.
Ron and Don, from radio to real estate. When you're ready to grab a cup of coffee and sit down with the guys, go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. I remember growing up in New Mexico, and I used to go to church, and I was in youth group, a group called FCA, called Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I played my guitar in there. It only takes a spark round to get a fire going.
That's right.
And soon all those around will warm up to its glowing. That's how it is with God's love once you've experienced it. You want to be fresh like spring. What do you want to do? You want to pass it on, right? That's one of the FCA songs, which is really nice. And then what kind of happened, some of our coaches got involved in FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. My counselor, David, who was counselor at the school, and then also our principal got involved with the school. What's very interesting, a number of years later, after I graduated, and in fact, I'm getting ready to go back for my 40-year reunion, I heard that the principal of the school got fired. And one of the reasons he got fired is kids were allowed to meet in groups after school on a public campus, and they were allowed to get together and pray, which this group did. But adults that worked at the school were not allowed to participate. And he kept participating, and he pushed it, and he pushed it, and he pushed it. He passed away a number of years ago. I loved him. He's a really great guy. He pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, and they finally ended up firing him over it. So
pushing adult participation in the prayer groups?
He kept showing up, right?
Okay.
He kept showing up, and there was a group of parents there that didn't like it, and they really didn't like these kids meeting and praying after school, but they're like, hey, if the Cowboys can meet, because there's a group of Cowboys that would get together, if ROTC can meet. We actually had a group of a little witch kind of, I think what are the happy witches? What are the good witches?
A coven?
Yeah, but that's
Wicca.
not necessarily good or bad.
Wicca.
Yeah, I think it was a Wicca group that would meet. So all these different groups that would meet. So there's this Christian group that would meet. They'd go down by the flagpole. They'd hold hands. They'd pray. And so we'll just call him Barry. Barry started, remember his hair? Crazy. So he started showing up and praying, and they told him, hey, you can't do that anymore. You can't participate. And so he kept pushing that, kept showing up. He got fired over that. What's really interesting is now we pivot down to the great state of Texas. They would have loved Barry showing up around the flagpole, throwing up some prayers, because evidently Greg Abbott down there, the governor, has decided that the 10 Commandments now are going to go in every single classroom. What say you about what Governor Abbott's doing, and is this purely political?
Oh my God, it's political. It has nothing to do with the 10 Commandments in the high schools. What this is all about, getting a case in front of the Supreme Court.
Hey, I think 15-year-olds, especially if they're married, they shouldn't covet somebody else's wife, right?
Right.
If you're 14, 15 years old and you're rolling into school, you should know, hey, all the other wives that are there at the age of 15, you don't be out there coveting them.
And how else would you know that murder is wrong?
Yeah, don't be murdering anyone.
So they are...
It's on the wall. I was about to murder someone. I came to school today. I was thinking about murdering someone and coveting someone else's wife that I saw in my humanities class. I didn't do it. Governor Abbott saved my life because I saw it written on the wall.
Yeah, of
and
course.
it's a commandment. It's not
That's
a
right.
suggestion. It was a commandment, and I took it as so.
So there are certain agenda items from ultra-conservatives that they want to capitalize on with this particular configuration of the Supreme Court. And so they go out and they create test cases that they know they're going to get sued, and they know it's going to eventually end up at the Supreme Court. So that's what we have here. And it actually involves the football coach in the state of Washington. If you remember, probably 9 years ago,
The coach of
there
Bremerton.
was a football coach that would have prayer time on the field of a public high school football game
After the game.
and so he had these prayer times, regardless of if the kids on the team were Christian or not. They had to come to the prayer.
They didn't
time.
have to come. That was
Well,
part of the case.
They would go and pray.
Mm-hmm.
And so that case worked its way up to the Supreme Court, and he actually won kind of in a way.
Yep.
It wasn't like a slam dunk win, but like they sliced it.
He lost his job over it. They would meet at the 50-yard line after a game. You didn't have to come, but you could come. But you would imagine if your coach was doing that and you didn't do that. I think of my son. If you probably want to do that, and
you want to fit in.
Well, and you go to any NFL game and the cameras don't show you, but watch at the 50-yard line after every game. You'll see, especially if you're at the game, you'll see players go out there. It's very common for
voluntary.
them to swap jerseys, and then they kneel and pray. Russell Wilson was a big part of that, of course. So I think what you saw is you saw coaches and kids that were kind of mimicking that. I don't think it was a problem again if the kids went out there and decided to do that. Same in the NFL. Players want to do that. It's when Barry shows up, Barry participates, or Barry is leading the prayer.
So that case opened the door, a crack in the door, where these conservative think tanks think we could shove that door open if we can get this case to the Supreme Court.
In this Supreme Court, he sued to get his job back. He got his job back. And when they got his job back, he didn't want his job back. So he just wanted the national attention of going. And there were a lot of groups.
Test balloon.
There were a lot of groups behind it. And I think he really enjoyed the publicity.
And so this
wrote
is
a book, all that stuff.
Part of an agenda to bring the idea of Christian nationalism to the front.
Yeah.
And so that this is one of the things that is appealing to that audience, that we want a Christian nationalism, and then that trickles down to all the immigration policy and foreign affairs and all the stuff. If we can embed this Christian nationalism, to me, the danger of that, besides from the obvious, is that the next step usually after that type of nationalism is the militarization or the aggression that can come with, okay, now that we believe in this Christian nationalism, we need to do away with the people that don't agree with us.
Yeah, and that's part of the project. It's one of the reasons why the current administration, and in fact, this current president is starting to thank God after the bombing run the other day. You're hearing a lot more about God, God, God. And he has sold more Bibles this year than Simon and Schuster. And they usually sell lots and lots of Bibles. So it's kind of that rallying cry. Christian nationalism is really about control. It's also about not empowering women and certainly not empowering brown and black people, right? I think it's one of the reasons why, what did you just see in New York City? They had kind of a primary there, and you saw how old is the young gentleman that just beat Cuomo. He came from out of nowhere, and he was down by 30 points, and he just took out Andrew Cuomo, right? And I think he's like 36 years old. He's progressive. He doesn't have white skin. He has brown skin. I think he's probably Indian, I'm guessing. I think we're going to see more of that. I think it's going to get more extreme now on both sides, especially as we pivot and get ready for midterm elections. A lot of those progressives that were way to the left and a lot of those Bernie Sanders followers, you're going to see that start to tack more to the middle as... well, it's going to get more votes, and I think the divide that we're all experiencing is even going to get greater. At least it's going to appear that way on the news.
This will be an interesting Supreme Court case because in my mind it's a slam dunk. It's already been adjudicated with the Supreme Court about the Ten Commandments, but you never know with the Supreme Court. It could get there and they could, again, thin slice some partial ruling that allows for something.
Here's what I don't get, and I went to Bible school. The commandments are part of the Old Testament. God killed or murdered a lot of people in the Old Testament. He did. Whacked a lot of people. And boy, did it seem super mean at times. And you're like, I'm following that guy or whoever that is. So commandment means covenant if you look at the Hebrew. Covenant means agreement, and there's this old agreement. And then according to the Bible, that's why we have a New Testament, which is a new covenant and new agreement. So Jesus coming is supposed to change all that, and it's supposed to be very kumbaya. So we're no longer under the old covenant, which means we're no longer under those old commandments. We're now under the new covenant and the new commandment. And it seems sometimes with Christian nationalism, we like to pick things from the past that were old
and serve our agenda
and part of the covenant and the testament. And then we also like saying things like this: by his stripes we're healed. I don't have to suffer anymore. Well, guess what? You're going to die. And sometimes when you die, you suffer. Just ask the 12 wise guys that followed Jesus around. 11 of them died horrible deaths. And this is after Jesus had already come into the world. So if they were his disciples and apostles, if they followed him and they were under the new commandment, the new system where you're not supposed to suffer, then how come Peter was driven to a cross upside down, his fingernails were pulled out, according to the works of Josephus, who was a Jewish historian at the time, and how come his wife was raped and then boiled in front of him? They died some horrible, horrible deaths, but by his stripes we were supposed to be healed. Doesn't seem like it worked in that situation. And at the same time, if you're going to put the 10 Commandments up there, then everybody else that is a person of faith that may think differently of you, there should be some room on the wall for where they're coming from too, and their perspective and the way that they see the world. We will see you. No! We will see you the next Ron and Don show, because guess what, Ron? It's time to get out of here. We want to thank everybody for listening to the Ron and Don show today. And don't forget, thanks for being our friends, our broadcasters. Well, we are your broadcasters. Also, thanks for allowing us to be your real estate brokers and has been very, very busy with Ron and Don Real Estate lately.
Yeah, you can email me, ron@ronandon.com. We would love to partner with you on your real estate journey, whether you're buying, selling, or investing, because we both have investment properties and we know that game. So ronandonsitdown.com.
Yeah.
Got the whole, keep on, world in his hands. Keep on. He's got the whole wide world.
This,
Sing out.
thank you. This is Matt off the mic, singing us out right now. I thought he was going to go back to the FCA song. It only gets a spark to get a fire going, and soon all those around will warm up to its glowing. That's how it is with God's love. Once you've experienced it, you want to sing. It's fresh like spring. You want to pass it on. Let's go back. Come on. Come on, Ron. I guess I forgot the second verse. Head up, shoulders back. We'll see you next time. You've been listening to the Ron and Don Show only on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Well, that's it. Show's over. We'll see you next time on the Ron and Don Radio Network.